Morning came to Lagos with its usual noise, the shouting of bus conductors, the honking of Danfo drivers, and the heavy footsteps of people chasing the day's bread. But in Banana Island, the air was still polished and perfumed. Behind high walls topped with silver spikes, Maxwell Okan's mansion sat like a silent kingdom. It was a house built not for comfort, but for control. 20 rooms, glass staircases, marble floors, and an army of staff who spoke only when spoken to. Inside, Maxwell sat at his breakfast table, flipping through digital stock charts on a sleek tablet. He was a man of immaculate taste, tall, handsome, clean-shaven, and always dressed like success itself. But his eyes were distant. Success had wrapped around him like a silk rope, tightening a little more each year. Agnes, his personal assistant of 10 years, entered carefully. "Sir, good morning," she said. "The board meeting at 11C, and the driver is ready for your inspection visit." Maxwell didn't look up. "Cancel the inspection. I'll do it myself later." Agnes blinked. "Sir, you haven't gone anywhere alone in years." Maxwell's lips curved faintly. "Maybe it's time I see what the real world looks like again." Agnes hesitated, then nodded and left. When the door closed, Maxwell sighed and set the tablet down. He looked around at the silent dining room, the polished cutlery, the untouched breakfast, the soft hum of air conditioning. It was everything money could buy. And yet somehow it all felt empty. A few miles away, the air told a different story. It was thick with dust, laughter, the smell of fried akara, and the rhythm of survival. In a small neighborhood of rusty zinc roofs and cracked walls, Ruby was already up before the sun. 7 years old, barefoot, sharp-tongued, and full of restless life. Her tiny house, 2 rooms her late mother left behind, stood crooked at the edge of the street. "Now, whoa!" Ruby muttered, struggling to tie her faded school uniform. "Mama, see what you do me. You just die. Leave me alone for this big house, 2 rooms, and no person to talk to." She threw her hands dramatically in the air, her voice echoing in the quiet morning. "God, Abe, ooh, you fit. Just borrow me, small mummy, for 1 day. I know. Go disturb you too much." Her words floated into the air, half prayer, half performance. She grabbed her small bag, slung it across her shoulder, and dashed out into the street. Ruby didn't have a father. Her mother had died of sickness when Ruby was just 5, leaving her with nothing but the old house and a name people remembered with pity. But Ruby refused to live in pity. She worked washing plates for Mama Frola's roadside restaurant after school, selling sachet water at the bus park, and even helping neighbors chase chickens when they escaped. And she was everywhere. Everyone in the street knew Ruby. "Ah, Ruby, you done late again." "Oh," shouted Mama Frola from her stall, frying Puff Puff. Ruby ran past, waving, "No vex, Mama Frola. Now my uniform hook for door." Again. "The door no one, make I go school." Mama Frola burst into laughter. This peek and go kill person would talk. One day at the bus stop, 2 older boys were arguing over football when Ruby jumped in. "Null lie, null lie." She shouted, hands on her tiny hips. "You talk say, Ronaldo better pass Messi." "My brother, you know Sabi Balo. Ronaldo fit pose, but Messi get sense pass." The boys exchanged looks and laughed. "Ruby, you too get mouth." She grinned proudly. "Better make Una know." By the time she reached her small public school, she was already a local celebrity. The girl who spoke like thunder, fought like a cat, and laughed like she owned the world. Her classmates adored her, and even some teachers secretly admired her spirit. During lunch, Ruby sat alone under a mango tree, eating Gary from a small tin bowl. She looked at other children whose parents brought food in lunchboxes and smiled sadly. "Mama," she whispered to the wind, "I day trio. You see me from heaven. I day try. Small, small." The wind blew softly, stirring the dust around her bare feet. For a moment, her fierce little face softened and her eyes glistened. But then, like a spark reigniting, she wiped her tears quickly. "I beg." "Who get time for cry?" she said aloud. "If I cry finish?" Ego turned to rice. The children nearby laughed. That was Ruby, the little lioness who refused to bow to sadness. Evening came. Ruby returned home, tired, but still humming. She dropped her bag, lit the small kerosene lamp, and opened her exercise book. The house creaked quietly as night crawled in. "This house too quiet," she said, glancing around. "Mama, you sure say you no fit. Come back small. I no need you full-time." "Oh, just part-time mommy duty." She laughed at her own joke, though a lump sat in her throat. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed on her door. Ruby called a voice. It was Flora, her neighbor, a kind woman who sometimes gave Ruby leftover food. "I make small jollof rice," Flora said, handing her a small bowl through the half-open door. Ruby grinned wide. "Ah, Auntie Flora. Godo bless you. You too sweet. If I grow up, I go buy you motor." Flora chuckled. "Motor you. You know, even get shoe." Ruby placed a hand on her chest dramatically. "Ah, you don't wound me. But no worry. One day I go wear shoe way." "Oh, blind your eyes." They both laughed, and for a moment the night felt lighter. The sun was still lazy when Ruby's day began. In the quiet of her small two-room house, the little girl with the braided ponytail stood in front of a tiny mirror, nailed crookedly to the wall. She was brushing her teeth with a short stick of chewing stick, humming loudly, like a radio that never runs out of batteries. "See my fine face," she said proudly, grinning into the mirror. "If my mama day here, she for call me, or fine pepper, I fine die." She laughed, shaking her little hips, as if she was on a fashion runway, then tied her lavender dress neatly with a piece of string. Her uniform had long retired to a corner. It was Saturday, and that meant hustle day. She carried her small yellow basin and dashed out into the morning light, shouting, "Pure water! Pure water! Cold like ice block!" Her voice rang through the street like a bell of life. People were used to Ruby's sound. It was part of the neighborhood's rhythm. Now, at the corner, Mama Frola, Ruby's neighbor, a kind-hearted Nigerian woman in her late 20s, always with a scarf tied loosely around her head, waved from her food stall. "Ruby, you know, go kill person with that your mouth." "Oh," she called out, laughing. "Now, how market today?" Ruby grinned mischievously, adjusting the basin on her head. "Mama Frula, today you go sell well." "I'd tell myself, Ruby, you know, go come back home empty-handed today." "The businesswoman I be," Fru chuckled. "Businesswoman indeed. Just don't go and fight people again." "Oh," Ruby folded her tiny arms, pretending to look offended. "Me fight Mama Frola. Nice ambassador. I be if anybody look for Wajala, I go just use mouth finish." "Am I not a touch person?" A group of boys, sitting near the kiosk, laughed loudly. One of them teased, "Ruby, nigh. Last week you pour water for moose ahead." Ruby pointed at him sharply, her face playful but firm. "He call me short battery, you know. Go talk that kind thing and escape. Next time I go, pour Zobo for your head join." Everyone burst into laughter. Even passers-by smiled at the fiery little girl with the basin of water on her head and the confidence of a queen. As the morning heated up, Ruby moved from street to street. Sweat glistened on her forehead, but she didn't slow down. She was full of chatter, greeting strangers, joking with shop owners, and even stopping to dance briefly when she heard music from a radio. "Ah, Davido's song be this. My guide always ginger me," she exclaimed, dancing a few quick steps before laughing and continuing her hustle. By noon her water was nearly finished. She stopped under a mango tree, sat on the root, and sighed. "Anne, this life no easy." "Oh," she said aloud. "But me, Ruby, I go make am. Even if nobody selling pure water reach heaven." A woman passing by chuckled. "Ruby, your mouth no day rest." Ruby winked. "If he rest, who go make everybody happy?" Later in the afternoon, Ruby helped Mama Frola at the food stall, washing plates and arranging chairs for customers. She hummed and cracked jokes with everyone, turning the small stall into a place of laughter. A customer asked, "Ruby, you know they tired?" Ruby shook her head dramatically. "Tired for where?" "The money I find. When I grow, I go by car. Big one. I go drive past this road. Everybody go shout, 'See Ruby Frola,'" laughed, wiping her hands. "Ruby, a beg when you buy car, remember us?" Oh, Ruby crossed her arms. Proudly, I go Cariuna. Go Dubai. Everyone in the stall clapped and laughed. That was Ruby's magic. No matter how poor or tired the people were, she could make them laugh, make them forget their worries. Even just for a moment when evening began to fall, Ruby carried a small bucket of water home. The air was cooling down. Children were playing football, and generators began their noisy hums. She pushed open the wooden door of her little house and sighed. "Ah, this house again," she said softly. "Mama, you wicked small O. You just leave me to be landlord of loneliness." Her voice trembled a little. She looked around. 2 small rooms with cracked walls, a kerosene lamp, and an old photo of her mother smiling on the wall. She stared at the photo and managed a small smile. "But I day strong," she whispered. "You know you're Ruby. I know they break easy." She placed the bucket down, cleaned herself, and sat on her small wooden bed. From the open window, she could hear Mama Frola laughing with customers outside, smell fried fish, and feel the warmth of community. Yet, she felt the quiet ache of being alone. Still, she didn't cry. She lay back, arms crossed behind her head. Tomorrow go better. It must better. Then she giggled softly to herself. Mama Frula go shock when she see how rich I go become. I go wear wigway, go touch my shoulder. Her laughter filled the small house, bright, stubborn, unbreakable. Meanwhile, across the city, Maxwell's world moved like a machine, precise, cold, and perfectly organized. At his company headquarters, he stood in a glass conference room overlooking the skyline. He wore a navy blue suit, listening silently as his managers presented reports. His calm, commanding expression made everyone nervous. When they finished, he simply said, "Increase production, cut the cost by 5%. No excuses. They nodded quickly. Maxwell turned toward the window, his reflection merging with the cityscape. To his employees, he looked like the image of control, but behind those sharp eyes was a man quietly detached from everything around him. Later that evening, he went to the gym. The camera would catch him alone in a sleek private gym, lifting weights with perfect form. His movements were mechanical, his breathing steady, but there was no joy in it, just routine, discipline, silence. Back home, Maxwell sat in his living room, scrolling through the news on his phone while the city lights blinked outside. His mansion was vast and beautiful, yet, like always, it was empty. He switched off the lights and walked to the window, staring down at Lagos far below, its streets alive with laughter, noise, and people chasing life. Somewhere down there, Ruby was probably still talking to herself, making someone smile. But Maxwell didn't know that yet. He didn't know that the girl whose laughter could make the street light up carried his name somewhere in her blood, waiting for the day she would call out to him. The afternoon sun hung lazily over the city of Lagos, beating down on the busy road where horns blared, hawkers shouted, and life unfolded in its usual chaos. Maxwell's black Lexus SUV gleamed like polished obsidian under the sunlight as it glided smoothly through the traffic. Inside, the air conditioning hummed and soft jazz played from the stereo, one of Maxwell's few escapes from his constantly ticking mind. He had just left a high-profile meeting at a construction site in Surulere, where he'd been negotiating with investors. Now, all he wanted was to get home, take a shower, and sink into the quiet solitude of his penthouse apartment. But Logos, as always, had other plans. At a congested intersection, Maxwell's car sputtered once, twice, and then died completely. The steering wheel stiffened in his grip. The dashboard lights flickered and went black. "What the?" he muttered, frowning. He turned the key again. Nothing. The car gave a feeble cough and went silent. He exhaled sharply, jaw tightening. The horns behind him grew louder, people shouting impatiently, "Oga, move your motor now." Maxwell opened the door, stepped out, and felt the full heat of the Lagos sun wash over him. His crisp white shirt clung to his back instantly. He looked around for a mechanic, for anyone, but the road was all noise and dust, the kind of chaos that money couldn't control. "Unbelievable," he muttered under his breath. He rolled up his sleeves, looking irritated, yet helpless. He was the kind of man who negotiated billionaire deals but couldn't change a tire. He took out his phone, dialed his driver. No answer. Tried Alice, his assistant. Still nothing. A drop of sweat ran down his temple. Great, he sighed, slamming the car door shut. Across the street, amidst the hum of traders, a small, familiar tornado of energy was moving through the crowd. Ruby, 7 years old, barefoot, her lavender dress swaying with every step, was balancing a basin of sachet water on her head. Her braided ponytail swung rhythmically as she called out, "Pure water, cold like your heart. Oh, come by before a finish." Her eyes widened, her breath caught. On the opposite side of the street, beside a broken-down Lexus, stood a man in a navy blue suit, tall, handsome, and visibly frustrated. He was wiping sweat from his forehead, speaking quickly to a roadside phone repairer who was pretending to help. Ruby froze. Her small heart skipped a beat. She squinted, dropped the basin from her head. Thankfully, it landed safely on the sidewalk, and whispered, "Wait, wait. No be dream be this." She reached into her tiny purse and pulled out an old, slightly folded photograph, the one she always kept hidden in her school bag. Her late mother's handwriting on the back read, "For my Ruby, never forget where you come from." In the faded picture stood her mother, smiling beautifully, and beside her was the same man. The same eyes, the same beard, the same everything. Ruby's eyes widened. Not him? Not him. My mama. No lie. That's my papa way. Abandon us. Her breath came fast. She looked again to be sure. The man turned slightly, revealing the exact same dimple she had seen in the photograph. There was no doubt. The next second, Ruby's fiery personality burst to life like fireworks. "Hey, hey, you people, come!" "Oh," she screamed, jumping in. Excitement. "Hey, come see something." "No, you people come see this man. He's my papa. We abandoned me and my mama." Heads turned instantly. Hawkers stopped selling. Okada riders slowed down. Pedestrians stared in confusion. Maxwell blinked, startled. "What? What is this now?" Ruby dropped her basin completely and started running toward him, her ponytail flapping behind her. "You think you can hide, Abby? You think, say Ruby, no go find you? I catch you today." People began laughing, some whispering. "Ah, no Ruby again. Oh, wait, and they do this time." Maxwell looked around, embarrassed. He raised his hand slightly. "Young girl, you must be mistaken." "Mistaken, Ka?" Ruby interrupted, planting herself in front of him, hands on her small hips. Her eyes were blazing. "You be Maxwell. Abby, you think say I know sabi your face? You day my mama picture. You abandoned me. You abandoned my mama. You think say I go keep quiet." The crowd began to grow. Shopkeepers leaned out of their stalls. Children gathered to watch. Someone even took out a phone to record. Maxwell's face flushed with confusion and humiliation. "What nonsense is this? I don't know you, young lady." Ruby stamped her foot. "You day lie. You day lie. See your beard? See your nose. Now the same nose way my mama get. You one den I am." People chuckled. One man shouted, "Olga better claim your peacin' before she drag you go news." "I don't have time for this," Maxwell said sharply, unlocking his car. But Ruby was not done. "Oh, you want run, Abby? You want escape again like you do before? You people hold am, and Naheem leave me and my mama to suffer." Gasps and laughter erupted. Some people stepped forward out of curiosity. Others laughed so hard they could barely stand straight. "Ruby, stop that thing," shouted one elderly man who knew her. "Now every day you find drama." "I know they find drama," Ruby yelled back. "Drama they find me. My papa don't finally show face." Maxwell shook his head in disbelief. "This is absurd." He slammed his car door shut, but the engine was dead. Desperate, he began walking away briskly, hoping to disappear before this scene made it online. But Ruby's voice pierced through the street like a siren. "You when run? You when run again? Catch him. Catch him." "No." "My papa. Oh, he abandoned me." She started running after him, her small legs moving fast, her lavender dress flying behind her. The street burst into chaos. People were shouting, laughing, Recording, cheering. "Ruby, stop, nah," someone shouted. "Ah, see how small peak and day they chase big man." Another laughed. Maxwell's polished shoes clicked against the pavement as he quickened his pace, his dignity falling apart with every step. "Good Lord, what is happening to me today?" he muttered. Ruby didn't care. She was laughing and crying at the same time, her voice echoing through the street. "You go?" "Here I am." "Today you go here? You think say you fit forget me?" Maxwell finally turned down a corner, breathless, his face red with embarrassment. He looked over his shoulder, and there she was, still running, still shouting, still relentless. The crowd thinned as they entered a quieter street. Maxwell stopped panting and finally turned to face her. Ruby stopped a few feet away, catching her breath, sweat glistening on her forehead. She looked at him, eyes wide and defiant. "Sona, so you go pretend, say, you know me." "You know Mama Chica." "Mama Chica," he repeated softly, his brow furrowing. The name hit something faint but real, deep in his memory. Ruby's face softened, seeing the flicker in his eyes. "You remember Abby? You remember Am?" Maxwell hesitated. For the first time, his expression wasn't anger or embarrassment. It was confusion, maybe even fear. Before he could say another word, Ruby pointed dramatically, her voice ringing out again. "I talk he remember?" He remember. People who had followed from afar began laughing again. Maxwell closed his eyes, rubbed his forehead, and whispered under his breath, "What kind of day is this?" Ruby stood tall, her small chest heaving with pride. "I no go leave you again. You go explain everything. You be my papa. I no care what you talk." And with that, the street fell silent for a moment. Even the wind seemed to pause as the billionaire and the little street girl stared at each other across the dusty Lagos road, two worlds colliding under the burning sun. The noise of the street had finally quieted down after the dramatic chase. Maxwell stood beside his broken-down car, his navy blue suit now wrinkled and slightly dusty from the chaos. His breathing was uneven, his chest heaving like a man who had just escaped a nightmare. The Lagos sun was still high but beginning to soften, painting long shadows across the road. The crowd that had gathered earlier had thinned, but a few people still lingered at a distance, curious about the wealthy man and the bold little girl who had called him a father. Ruby stood a few feet away, her small frame trembling, her lavender dress clinging to her dusty legs. Her simple braided ponytail was coming undone from all the running, and the tray she used to sell water hung loosely in her hand. One bottle had rolled away and was now lying under a parked Kiki Napep, forgotten. Tears mixed with sweat on her small brown face. But her eyes, those wide, piercing eyes, remained fixed on Maxwell. Maxwell finally found his voice, his tone heavy but calm. "Ruby," he said softly, as if the name itself carried a fragile weight. "Come, let's talk, please." Ruby's lips tightened. She took a step back. "Don't call me like that," she snapped, her voice quivering with anger. "You don't know me. You left me and my mama. You think I don't know you, eh? I saw your pictures in Mama's box. You're the man she said would never come back?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Her small chest heaved as she pointed a trembling finger at him. "You abandoned us." Maxwell's face sank into his hands. He could feel the eyes of the few remaining onlookers burning into him. Shame crawled over his skin like fire. He wanted to vanish, but there was nowhere to run. Not this time. He exhaled deeply. "Ruby," he whispered again, his voice trembling. "Your mother, Mama Chica, she's gone." Ruby's jaw clenched. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears again. "Last year, she got sick. She tried to fight it, but she didn't make it. Before she died, she told me. She said, 'If you ever see Maxwell Okafor, tell him I forgive him.'" Ruby's voice broke, her tears falling freely. "But I don't forgive you." Maxwell closed his eyes tightly. The world seemed to blur. The name Mama Chica echoed in his mind like a haunting song from another life. He pressed his palm to his forehead, trying to steady himself, but his heart pounded painfully. "I didn't know," he murmured. "Ruby, I swear to you, I didn't know." "You didn't care," Ruby yelled, stamping her foot. "You didn't even look for us. You're a big man, Abby. You're on TV. Everyone knows your face. But you didn't remember the woman who sold you food when you had nothing." Her words struck him like knives. He leaned against the car door, gripping it tightly, as his throat burned with regret. "You're right," he said finally. "You deserve to know everything." Ruby crossed her arms stubbornly, glaring at him. "Then talk." He took a deep breath, his voice low but steady. "Your mother was a good woman. I met her 7, maybe 8 years ago, when I was still trying to find my place in life. Back then, I wasn't this person. You see, I was just a young man, 28, trying to recover from heartbreak. I was in love with someone else, a woman I thought I would marry. But she turned me down. It broke me." He paused, glancing down at the dusty road, as though the past itself was lying there before him. "One night, I went to Mama Chica's food stand. She sold rice and beans near Adiola Market. I remember the smell. It was always comforting. She smiled when she saw me, even though I was a stranger. That smile. It had peace in it. I kept going back, not because I was hungry, but because she made the world feel quiet for a few minutes." Ruby's expression softened slightly, though she said nothing. "One night I came there drunk. My heart was shattered. She found me sitting on a stool crying like a child. She came to me, wiped my face with a wrapper, and said, 'Maxwell, no woman is worth your tears if she doesn't see your heart.' I laughed, but somehow her words stuck. From that day, she began checking on me. Sometimes she brought me food when I couldn't even get out of bed." Maxwell looked up at Ruby. "Your mother was kind. She didn't ask for anything. She just wanted to see me smile again. And one night, when I was feeling lost, she stayed with me longer than usual. We talked, we laughed, we forgot our sadness, and one thing led to another." Ruby's eyes widened slightly. "So, you slept with her?" He nodded slowly, unable to meet her gaze. "Yes, I did. But Ruby, I need you to understand something. I wasn't thinking straight. I was still in love with someone else. When that woman came back into my life and accepted me again, I left Legos immediately. I didn't even tell your mother goodbye. I didn't know she was pregnant. I swear, Ruby, I didn't know." Ruby clenched her fists. Her lips trembled as she tried to hold back a sob. "You didn't know because you didn't care. You had everything, but you couldn't care about the one person who cared for you." Maxwell swallowed hard. "You're right," he said horrously. "I was selfish. I didn't deserve her kindness. When your mother finally found me months later, she told me she needed to talk. I met her outside my office. She looked tired, but her eyes still had that same calmness. She said she wanted closure. His voice cracked. I told her I was never in love with her. I told her I had moved on. I didn't even ask her why she came. She just looked at me for a long time and said, 'I wish you happiness, Maxwell.' Then she walked away. That was the last time I saw her." Ruby's tears fell faster now, but she tried to stay firm. "So you broke her heart and she still forgave you?" He nodded, tears forming in his own eyes. "Your mother had a kind soul. She carried pain with grace. I thought I was escaping my past, but all I did was abandon the only person who saw good in me when I was at my worst." Ruby's small hands trembled as she pointed at him again. "You're a terrible man," she said through sobs. "You left her alone to raise me. You made her cry every night. She used to sit outside our house looking at the stars, whispering your name. I used to ask her, 'Mama, who is Maxwell?' And she'd say, 'He's a man who forgot his way home.'" Ruby wiped her eyes. "She never told me you were my father until she was sick." Maxwell's knees weakened. He leaned against the car again and whispered, "Oh God, Mama Chica." He slowly knelt on the ground, his voice breaking. "Ruby, I don't expect you to forgive me. I can't change what I did. I was blind, and I hurt the best person who ever cared for me. But please, please understand that I didn't mean to abandon you. I didn't even know you existed." Ruby stared at him for a long time, silent, except for the sound of her sniffles. "You're saying sorry now, because you feel guilty. You rich people always do that. You think money can fix everything." "I don't want to fix you with money," Maxwell said quietly. "I just want to be part of your life now, to make things right, even if it takes the rest of my days." Ruby's eyes hardened again. "You can't make things right. You weren't there when Mama died. You weren't there when I had no food. You weren't there when people laughed at me for not having a father. You can't come now and act like you care." Her words cut through him like shards of glass. He had faced boardrooms full of ruthless investors and never flinched. But this tiny girl, his daughter, brought him to his knees. "I deserve your anger," he said softly. "But I won't walk away this time." Ruby shook, her head, tears falling again. "It's too late. You already did." She picked up her tray of bottled water and turned away. Her small feet kicked up dust as she began walking back toward the crowd of people in cars. For a moment, Maxwell just knelt there, frozen, his chest heavy with regret. "Ruby," he called out, his voice breaking. "Please don't go." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "You want me to forgive you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Then go find Mama and tell her that yourself, because I'm not her messenger anymore." And with that, she walked away, her little frame swallowed by the restless Lagos street. Maxwell remained where he was, staring after her until she disappeared completely. Around him, the city carried on, as if nothing had happened. Hawkers shouting, cars honking, life moving forward. But inside him, something had shifted. He looked up at the gray clouds above. "Mama Chica," he whispered. I'm so sorry for everything." A light drizzle began to fall, soft raindrops mixing with his tears. He didn't move. He just stood there, letting the rain wash away the dust and the shame as if it were a silent cleansing. The car, the wealth, the title. None of it mattered anymore. He had seen the price of his choices, and it wore a lavender dress and braided hair. As the drizzle turned into heavier rain, Maxwell got into his car and sat in silence. He didn't start the engine. His eyes were fixed on the raindrops sliding down the windshield. He knew this wasn't the end. Ruby might hate him now, but he couldn't let this be the last chapter of their story. He whispered again, "I'll find you, Ruby. I'll make it right, even if it takes everything I have." And as the city lights began to glow against the evening rain, Maxwell, the billionaire everyone admired, finally realized what true poverty was. It wasn't the lack of money. It was the emptiness left behind when love is abandoned. As Maxwell drove home that evening with a heavy heart, his thoughts chasing themselves in circles like restless shadows. The city lights of Lagos blurred past his car window, but he could barely see them. All he could see in his mind's eye was the little girl, Ruby, standing in the middle of the road, her small frame shaking with fury and tears, her voice echoing through the crowd. "You abandoned me and my mama." He poured himself a glass of whiskey the moment he got home, slumped onto the couch, and stared blankly at the floor. His mansion was silent, too silent. Even the hum of the air conditioner sounded judgmental. For years, Maxwell had prided himself on being a man of control, a man who never let emotions shake his calm. But now, that composure had shattered like glass. He leaned back and closed his eyes. The memory of Mama Chica flooded back, her laughter as she served steaming plates of jollof rice. Her calm eyes whenever he came to her food, stand heartbroken. She had been kind, too kind, and he had taken that kindness for granted. "Damn," he muttered, setting down his drink. "I was a fool. Sleep wouldn't come that night." Every time he closed his eyes, Ruby's face appeared, angry, fierce, and heartbroken all at once. She was like a mirror, showing him everything wrong he'd done. Around midnight, he stood up restless. He walked around his spacious living room, the glossy floors, the expensive art, the cold luxury, and for the first time, he realized how empty it all felt. When dawn broke, Maxwell was already dressed in casual clothes, his mind made up. He had to see Ruby again. He needed to make things right, even if she refused to listen. By the time he got to Ruby's neighborhood, the streets were already busy. The area buzzed with life. Children in school uniforms running to catch the morning assembly, traders setting up their stalls, and the air thick with the smell of a car and frying plantain. Maxwell parked his sleek black car near a roadside kiosk, drawing a few curious stares. He got out, adjusted his sunglasses, and looked around. "Excuse me," he said to a woman roasting corn by the roadside. "Do you know a little girl named Ruby? About 7 years old?" The woman looked him up and down suspiciously. "Which Ruby you talk? We get plenty Ruby for this area." This one sells water on the street," Maxwell explained, his voice soft but desperate. The woman's eyes widened. "Ah, you mean our small Wajula girl? Ruby way. No day grief for anybody." She burst into laughter. "That one she go school now. Oh, you go wait small, dem go soon close." Maxwell sighed. "All right, I'll wait." He leaned against his car, ignoring the whispers around him. A few kids giggled, pointing at the expensive car and the well-dressed man waiting like a security guard on duty. The minutes stretched into hours. He bought a bottle of water, sat on the car bonnet, and stared at the school gate down the street. When the bell finally rang, a sea of children poured out in cheerful chaos. Among them, he saw her. Ruby with her lavender dress slightly dusty, a backpack bouncing on her back. She was laughing with two friends, her energy like fire. But when her eyes met Maxwell's, her smile vanished. She stopped walking, blinked twice, and then let out a small, sarcastic laugh. "Ah, Cam, billionaire himself. Don't come visit, we poor people. Wonders shall never end." "Ruby," Maxwell said softly, standing straight. "Please, I just want to talk." Ruby folded her arms, tilting her head. "Talk? You want talk? Since 7 years, you know talk. But today, you want talk. Oga billionaire a big shift. Make I pass." She started to walk away. He followed her. "Ruby, please. I know I made mistakes." She spun around, her eyes flashing. "Mistakes? You call 'em mistake? You use my mama heart play, then abandon her when she needs you pass. And now you talk mistake. Oga a beg. No provoke me this afternoon." The people nearby began to watch. Ruby's voice, though small, carried far. Maxwell felt the familiar wave of embarrassment rising. But this time, he didn't run. He stood there silent, letting her words stab where they must. Ruby scoffed. "You get fine car, fine house, money way, fit, feed this whole street, but you know get heart, you know, get shame, safe if you find forgiveness. No, be me. You go meet, go find my mama for grave. Does she deserve your sorry? No. Oh, be me, Ruby." "I didn't know she was pregnant," he said quietly. "If I did," Ruby laughed bitterly, cutting him off. "If you did, you for still run. Abby, you won, and I am. You go still run, because men like you, unfit, run faster than Usain Bolt when Wahala show face." Her friends standing by tried to calm her down. "Ruby a beg small now," one whispered. Ruby turned to them. "No make I talk, all these fine men, we go chop woman emotion, like Suya, and go their way. Them go think. Say God no, they watch see them now, he come day, they pretend like he get conscience." Maxwell sighed and took a cautious step forward. "Ruby, I know you have every right to hate me, but please, I want to help you now. Whatever you need." Ruby raised her hand sharply. "Help you, want help me where you. Day when they sell pure water under sun. When they cry for food. When my mama sick and no get money for medicine. You chop fried rice for your air-conditioned house." Abby, her words hit him like stones. Maxwell couldn't speak. He had no defense left. Ruby adjusted her backpack and started walking toward her house. "I no need your help, Oga billionaire. You no be my father, my mama and my papa, and my mama join. Go back to your big house and beg. This place no need you." He followed slowly, behind guilt carving deep lines into his face. When she reached her small compound, she stopped, opened the rusted gate, and turned back one last time. "You still day follow me?" she said with an incredulous laugh. "So you no get work today? You just want to follow one small girl up and you no tire. "Ruby," he said gently, "I just want you to know that I care." "Care?" she said, eyes narrowing. "Now today, you remember say, you fit care? You know, get shame. Oh, anyway, me, I know. Get your time, I get hustle." She disappeared into her house and came out moments later, changed into a faded yellow dress, her water tray balanced expertly on her head. Maxwell was still standing beside his car. She looked at him, lips twisting into a half-smile. "You still here? Abby, you won by pure water, because if in that I fit sell, you whole sachet, Ruby." "Please, please, please, please," she interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "Oga, a big leave road. I know one late go market. I day work, I know. Get driveway. Go carry me. You hear?" Her voice softened just slightly before she turned to go. "If you really get guilty mind, no use disturb me. You help another person, because forgiveness. No day here you go. Find my mama. Forgave, maybe she fit. Forgive you with that." She walked away. Her small figure, fierce and defiant, as ever. Her voice echoing behind her. "Beg, oh, make this man no follow me again. Oh, I no want wahala." Maxwell stood, there watching her sap appear into the busy street, the weight of 7 years pressing down on him. For the first time in his life, the billionaire felt utterly powerless, not because of money, but because of guilt he could never buy his way out of. And as the sun dipped behind the Lagos skyline, he realized that Ruby's fiery words would haunt him far longer than any boardroom loss ever could. The sunlight poured into the towering glass windows of Maxwell's office, painting the marble floors with golden streaks. But even the brilliance of his empire couldn't wash away the heaviness in his chest. The usually composed, confident billionaire now sat slouched behind his massive mahogany desk, staring blankly at his computer screen. Numbers and emails filled the screen, but none of them registered. His mind was somewhere else, on a small street in front of a modest 2-room house, and on the fiery little girl who had refused to call him father. He sighed deeply, running his hands through his hair, the weight of guilt pressing on him like an invisible chain. For the first time in years, the walls of wealth around him felt like a prison. His assistant, Alice, a graceful 28-year-old Nigerian woman with a sleek ponytail and a sharp pink office dress, walked into the room holding a few documents. She stopped mid-step when she noticed his expression. "Sir," she said softly, placing the papers on the desk, "you've been staring at that screen for nearly an hour. You haven't even signed the new contract. Is everything all right?" Maxwell looked up slowly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm fine, Alice." Just he sighed again, leaning back in his chair. "Just tired." Alice raised an eyebrow. "Tired? You, sir? You've worked through board meetings, late-night negotiations, and jet lag from London to Lagos without blinking. This doesn't look like tired. It looks like something's eating you." Maxwell chuckled weakly. "You're too observant for your own good." She folded her arms, her tone playful, but concerned. "Maybe, but you hired me for that, remember?" For a long moment, silence filled the office. The hum of the air conditioner and the distant sounds of typing from the outer office seemed louder than usual. Then Maxwell spoke, his voice lower, softer. "Alice," he began, staring at the city skyline through the window. "Do you believe in second chances?" Alice tilted her head. "Depends. Second chances for who?" He smiled faintly. "For a man who made a mistake 7 years ago and is now paying for it." Alice's expression softened. "What kind of mistake?" Maxwell hesitated before speaking again. "There was a woman once. Her name was Mama Chica. People on the street called her that. She sold food not far from where I used to live years ago. I wasn't in a good place at that time. The woman I loved had just broken my heart. And Mama Chica, well, she was kind, caring, and always smiling. She didn't have much, but she gave me peace when I had none." Alice listened, quietly, her arms slowly unfolding. Maxwell sighed again. "I didn't love her, not the way she deserved. She was just there when I was broken. One thing led to another, and then when the woman I loved came back, I left. I didn't even look back." Alice frowned. And Mama Chica, she got pregnant, Maxwell said quietly. But she didn't tell me. Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe she didn't want to burden me. Years later, I found out she passed away. Some people said it was an illness. Others said she suffered too much trying to raise her daughter alone. That daughter, he paused, swallowing hard, is Ruby. Alice exhaled, realization dawning on her face. The little girl who shouted after you the other day. He nodded slowly. Yes, that was her. And she hates me, Alice. She has every reason to. Alice looked at him, her tone now gentle. Sir, maybe she doesn't hate you. Maybe she's just angry, hurt. She told me to go to her mother's grave if I wanted forgiveness. His voice broke slightly. Do you know what that means, Alice? I can't undo what I did. I can't fix her pain. Alice stepped closer to the desk, her voice firm but kind. You can't change the past, but you can change the story that's being written now. He looked up at her, his eyes glistening. How? Let me talk to her, she said confidently. Ruby might not listen to you right now, but she might listen to another woman, someone who can reason with her gently. Maxwell hesitated. She's not an easy child. She's fiery, talks fast, jumps from English to pidgin like she's dancing between two songs. Alice smiled faintly. Then I'll dance with her. Maxwell managed a small laugh for the first time that day. You sure about this, Alice? I've handled tougher negotiations than a 7-year-old girl, she teased, picking up her purse. I'll go see her. The sun was dipping lazily over the Lagos skyline as Alice's car pulled into Ruby's neighborhood. The narrow street buzzed with evening activity, vendors shouting prices, motorbikes honking, and children playing football barefoot. Her elegant pink dress and neatly tied ponytail stood out in sharp contrast to the dusty roads and lively chaos around her. She parked and stepped out, clutching her handbag. Heads turned. A few women selling tomatoes exchanged curious glances. Who be this fine madam way come this kind area, one murmured. Alice walked confidently toward Ruby's small compound. The door was slightly ajar, and before she could knock, a small voice shouted from inside, Who knock like say she one break door? Alice blinked and smiled politely. Hello, are you Ruby? The door swung open, and Ruby stood there, her simple braided ponytail slightly messy, her lavender dress wrinkled from the day's hustle, but her eyes sparkling with curiosity and suspicion. Who you be? Ruby asked, squinting. You know, look like person. Way they live for this area. See your fine dress and bag? You sure you no lost? Alice chuckled lightly. No, I'm not lost. I'm Alice, your daddy's assistant. Ruby's eyes widened for a moment before she burst into laughter, clapping her hands. Ah, so you don't join AM for this madness too, Abby. You and that man don't lose una cents finish. You say who? My daddy. She shook her head dramatically. Madam, I beg. No, come here. Come talk nonsense. I know. Get papa? My mama, my papa. Alice sighed, crouching slightly so they were at eye level. Ruby, I'm not here to fight you. I just came to talk. Ruby crossed her arms, her small face fierce. Talk wettin'. I tell that man, make you go beg my mama, for grave, if he won forgiveness. Abby, your ear no word. Alice tried to remain calm, her voice soft. He feels terrible, Ruby. He didn't know your mother was pregnant. If he did, maybe things would have been different. Ruby frowned. Different how? He go still leave. People like Unona, rich men. Una, know they stay. My mama cry for night. Many times I hear am. You think say I fit forget? The words stung Alice's heart. I'm sorry, Ruby, she whispered. But sometimes people change. He wants to make things right now. Ruby stared at her for a long moment, then shook her head. Make things right. 7 years don't waka. My mama don't die. And me, I don't grow strong. I no need them. I beg madam if no money una. One give me keep mem. I go find my own. I they go work now. Alice stood up slowly. Ruby, please. But Ruby was already grabbing her water bucket, balancing it on her small head with practiced ease. She turned toward the road, her face full of fiery determination. Tell your Ogameki, no waste him time. Forgiveness, no day here. If he one cry, Makey cry for him. Car me, I day go hustle. Money no, go make itself. Alice stood frozen for a moment, watching the tiny girl march away into the sunset, the golden light reflecting off her lavender dress around her. Life went on. Children laughing, vendors shouting, buses honking. But Alice could only feel the echo of that small, strong voice fading into the distance. She sighed deeply and whispered to herself, "That girl's fire. Maybe that's the part of Mama Chica that never died." Then with a heavy heart, she turned and walked back to her car, ready to tell Maxwell that forgiveness, at least for now, was a mountain not easily climbed. The next morning dawned quietly over Lagos. The city was already stirring, cars honking, vendors calling out, the distant echo of life beginning again. But inside Maxwell's office, silence reigned. The air felt heavy, thick with thoughts unspoken. Maxwell sat at his desk, eyes blankly fixed on the skyline through the large glass window. The documents before him remained untouched. His mind was elsewhere, stuck in that moment when he saw the little girl running toward him, calling him Daddy. The sound still haunted him, echoing in his ears like an old wound refusing to heal. The door creaked softly, and Alice stepped in, her face calm but serious. She had just returned from her visit to Ruby's neighborhood. Her pink office dress looked slightly wrinkled from the long commute, and there was a trace of dust on her heels, but her poise remained intact. "Maxwell," she said gently, setting her handbag on the table. He looked up immediately, eyes searching her face. "Alice, tell me, how did it go?" Alice sighed and took a seat opposite him. "She's a strong girl," she began. "Too strong for her age, honestly. She didn't want to talk to me at first. She said she didn't have a father, that you should go and ask her mother for forgiveness." Maxwell leaned back, his face tightening. "That's exactly what I feared. She must really hate me." "She doesn't hate you," Alice replied softly. "She's hurt. You abandoned her mother when she needed you most, and now the girl has to survive on her own. She works small errands just to eat." Maxwell closed his eyes, pain washing over him. "I never wanted this. I didn't even know. Alice, I didn't know she was mine. Mama Chica never told me." Alice leaned forward. "Well, now you do. And she needs you, even if she doesn't know it yet." He sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead. "What do I do now?" Alice smiled faintly. "You do what any real man would do. You go there yourself." The following afternoon, Maxwell and Alice set off together. The drive through the city was slow, the streets thick with the pulse of Lagos life. Hawkers weaved through traffic, selling everything from plantain chips to phone chargers. Maxwell barely noticed any of it. His fingers tapped restlessly against the steering wheel. Alice glanced at him. "Relax, Maxwell. Just be honest with her. Don't talk to her like a businessman. Talk to her like a father." He nodded weakly. "I'll try." They turned into the familiar dusty street, lined with small shops, old houses, and playing children. When they reached Ruby's home, the little girl was outside, sweeping the compound. Her small hands moved rhythmically, the wooden broom scratching against the ground. When she looked up and saw Maxwell, her eyes widened slightly, then narrowed in suspicion. "You again?" she asked sharply, dropping her broom. Maxwell froze, his throat tightening. He wanted to run again, but this time not out of fear, out of shame. Alice stepped forward with a small smile. "Ruby, we came to talk. Please, can we sit down?" Ruby folded her arms. "If you've come to convince me that he's my father, then save your words. I told you I don't have a father." Maxwell swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "Ruby, I didn't know. I swear. Your mother, Mama Chica, she never told me she was pregnant. If I had known, I would have been there." Ruby glared at him. "You weren't there when she was sick. You weren't there when she died. And now you're here talking like you cared." Her words cut through him like knives. Maxwell's eyes watered. "You're right," he said quietly. "I failed her. I failed both of you. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right. Please let me try." There was a long silence. The street around them carried on, children laughing in the distance, a radio playing somewhere. the smell of fried yam drifting in the breeze. Finally, Ruby looked away, her voice trembling slightly. "You know what my mama used to say," she whispered. She said, "People who truly love you don't wait until you're gone to show it." Maxwell's heart broke. He took a slow step forward, but stopped when Ruby raised a hand. "I'll forgive you," she said finally, her little face tightening with maturity far beyond her years. "But not because you deserve it. I'll forgive you because that's what my mama would have wanted." Maxwell blinked back tears. "Ruby," she went on, her voice now soft and tired, "I'm only 7, but I work every day. I sweep. I fetch water. I sell sachet water on the road. I'm trying to go to school, but it's hard. So maybe forgiving you will help me move on." Maxwell fell to his knees before her. Alice's eyes filled with tears as she watched him clasp Ruby's small hands. "Thank you, my daughter," he said, voice breaking. "Thank you. I promise from today you'll never suffer again. I'll take care of you, send you to the best school, buy you everything you need. I'll be there every day." Ruby nodded, her expression unreadable. "Promises are easy to make. Let's see if you keep them." Alice smiled through her tears. "She's got her mother's strength," she whispered. As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the small compound, Maxwell and Alice packed some of Ruby's clothes into a small bag. Maxwell wanted to bring her home to his mansion in Ecoy with marble floors, security guards, and all the comfort in the world. But Ruby shook her head firmly. "I'll go with you," she said, "but I'm not leaving my home." Maxwell frowned slightly. "What do you mean, my dear?" "This is my mother's house," Ruby replied, her voice steady. "This house has raised me since she died. I can't just abandon it. I'll go with you today to see where you live. But I'll sleep here. This is where my mama's spirit is." Maxwell sighed softly. "You're still so young to understand." Ruby interrupted him, her little chin lifted defiantly. "I understand enough. Peace doesn't come from a big house. It comes from the heart. My peace is here." Alice smiled, touched by the girl's strength. "She's right, Maxwell. Sometimes love means respecting where someone feels safe." He looked from Alice to Ruby, then nodded. "All right, you win. You'll stay here, but I'll hire someone to look after you. Cook, clean, and make sure you're safe. And I'll visit every day." Ruby's expression softened just a little. "Okay, but don't make promises you can't keep." Maxwell chuckled faintly through his tears. "I won't. Not this time." As they packed her few belongings, Ruby suddenly turned and looked at him. "If you want me to be comfortable," she said slowly, "you can live here too." Maxwell laughed nervously. "Live here?" "Yes," she said stubbornly. "If you really care, then you won't mind staying in Mama's house." He rubbed the back of his neck, glancing around at the old compound walls, the peeling paint, the rusted gate. Ruby, I don't think I can live here full time." But he paused, looking into her expectant eyes. "How about I stay 3 days a week here with you, and you spend 3 days with me in my house? That way we both get what we want?" Ruby thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. "That's fair." He smiled. "Deal." Alice grinned. "Well, look at that. You two just made your first father-daughter agreement." Ruby giggled softly, and for the first time, Maxwell saw a glimpse of the child she truly was beneath the pain. Later that evening, as the sun melted into twilight, Maxwell stood outside Ruby's house, looking at the structure thoughtfully. "Would you like this place renovated?" he asked gently. "I could fix the roof, paint the walls, maybe build a small garden." Ruby looked up at him, her expression calm but firm. "If that's what you want, I don't mind. But this land is my mother's. I'll never sell it or trade it for anything. Every memory I have of her is here." Maxwell placed a hand on her small shoulder. "And I'll make sure this place is protected forever." Ruby smiled faintly. "Thank you." The night air was cool, filled with the faint sounds of distant music and conversation. Alice stood by the car, watching them quietly. For the first time in years, Maxwell's face held peace, a kind of healing that no amount of money could buy. As they said their goodbyes for the night, Ruby looked up at him and said softly, "Good night, Daddy." The word hit him like sunlight after a long storm. He smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "Good night, Ruby." And as he walked back to the car beside Alice, Maxwell knew that his life, his heart, his priorities had changed forever. He had found something he never knew he'd lost. Not just forgiveness, but a family. The end. Thank you so much for watching Inspiring Stories. May God